This is our theoretical blockchain, and proof of work and proof of stake are both consensus mechanisms at the heart of blockchain. They make sure that the blockchain is safe. If you have not watched my explanation video about how blockchain works, I highly recommend you watch that first. It's linked up somewhere at the site. Now, every block contains certain information, for example, transaction details. But how exactly is a new block added to the chain? And how can we make sure that no wrong or fraudulent information gets added? Let's look at proof of work first. This is Inuyasha, as you may recall from the last video. He is now a miner, which means he secures the blockchain and makes sure everything runs safe and smooth. When we want to add a new block to the chain, Inuyasha has to solve a complex mathematical puzzle, which takes a lot of computing power, as you can see here. But of course, Inuyasha is not the only miner. There are many more. Now, as you can see, here's Inuyasha with the most computing power over here. This is his blockchain, his copy of the blockchain. Every miner has a copy of the blockchain. I just used chains here and these pieces here because I did not have enough chains. So don't get confused, it's the same. The blockchain copies are always identical. Then we have Ninja over here. His computing power is smaller than the one of Inuyasha. And then here we have Obi-Wan with the smallest computing power right over here and his copy of the blockchain. Now, every miner has a chance to solve the puzzle and add the next block to the chain. Basically, whoever solves it first wins. Inuyasha's chances are of course highest because he has the most computing power, but all the others have a small chance to solve it as well. Alright, I just removed the last block here for simplicity's sake, but let's say Inuyasha now solves the puzzle, he gets to add the new block to the chain. And again, if you don't understand how these blocks work, I highly recommend you to watch the video where I explain that in depth. When he adds the new block to his copy of the chain, he broadcasts this new block to all the other miners. He basically says, hey here, look Ninja, this is my new block. Look Obi-Wan, this new block got added to the chain. And all the other miners, they compare this block and this whole chain to their copy of the chain. And if it's not fraudulent, if everything lines up, they add this new block as well to their copies of the chain, and the next puzzle starts to get solved and the next block can be added. But why would a miner use all this computing power and want to add a new block in the first place? This is where cryptocurrencies come in. As a reward for adding a new block, the miner becomes a few coins of the cryptocurrency. The miner also receives transaction fees that are network specific. So thank you Inuyasha for adding this new block to the blockchain. You now get 3 Philip coins. 3 Philip coins as a reward for adding this new block. And now the puzzle solving starts again. And the next miner who adds the next block gets 3 Philip coins. Now let's say Ninja comes here and says, hey guys, I added a new block as well. Here, this is a new block. This is a fraudulent block now. A block that is not supposed to be added. Here, see, we add this to our blockchain next. But now they can validate and compare the whole blockchain through the transaction history. So Inuyasha might say, wait Ninja, this block states that you get 5 Philip coins from Obi-Wan. There's no transaction history of that. So Inuyasha will not add this block to the copy of his chain. Obi-Wan will also reject that block. So it's basically just here at Ninja's chain, doesn't get added to anything else. It gets rejected and yeah, the blockchain adds the next right block. Of course, there are many other miners than just Inuyasha, Ninja and Obi-Wan around the entire world. This is what makes a blockchain decentralized and also ensures that no government can take control over it. To sum it up, proof of work is a consensus mechanism in which the miners solve complex mathematical puzzles to add new blocks to the chain in exchange for a crypto reward. Maybe you already spotted a few of the challenges that proof of work has. For example, the high energy consumption due to the needed computing power for mining, or the limited transaction speed because of how long it takes to solve the puzzle. Proof of Stake attempted to solve some of these issues, so let's now have a look at Proof of Stake and compare both of them at the end. With Proof of Stake, we don't have any miners anymore but validators. In order to become a validator, you have to own a certain amount of the cryptocurrency, just as you can see here in these chests. Inuyasha owns the most with this large chest and this small treasure chest full of Phillip coins. Ninja has one treasure chest full of Phillip coins and Obi-Wan just has a few Phillip coins over here. They don't need massive computing power anymore. Yes, they need computing power a little bit, so the blockchain doesn't go offline. It needs to be online the whole time. But the main thing is that they own a certain amount of these coins in order to become validators. Now they lock up part of their coins as collateral. This is called staking. So let's say Inuyasha locks up a few coins, Ninja locks up a few coins, and Obi-Wan locks up a few coins. These coins are now staked and they cannot access them. Now let's disconnect this block again so we can add it in just a moment. Alright, now to add a new block to the blockchain, one of the stakeholders gets chosen. This happens random to some degree, but also depends on a few more factors. For example, of course, the amount of coins locked up in total. And also on the time you have been validating already. What the exact factors are is different from blockchain to blockchain. But you could say Proof of Stake is basically like a lottery, where you have a higher chance of winning the more coins you have. Let's say by pure chance and luck Obi-Wan is chosen to add a new block. Once he adds it, everybody else double checks if this block aligns with the transaction history. He broadcasts it just like before. And if it aligns, the new block gets added to every copy of the chain. And if everything was correct with the block and it got added, Obi-Wan gets a few Phillip coins as a reward for that. Thank you for adding these blocks, for validating them. Here are a few Phillip coins as a reward. If the block should get rejected, however, Obi-Wan will lose coins of the collateral that he has staked. Remember, every validator stakes some of their coins, and if they have a fraudulent block, if it doesn't work out with the blocks they add, they lose some of their staked coins. Of course, here as well we have many different validators across the entire world for most blockchains, which ensures the decentralized nature of blockchain. So to sum it up, Proof of Stake is a consensus mechanism in which validators get chosen based on different factors to add new blocks to the chain in exchange for crypto rewards, or if the blocks are fraudulent, they lose their stake coins. So what are examples for Proof of Work and Proof of Stake blockchains? We'll have a look at that in just a second, but before we go there, make sure to hit the like on this video if the explanation was helpful for you, easy to follow, or if Lego was one of your favorite toys as a child as well. Now let's look at the different challenges and how both concepts deal with them. First is decentralization. With Proof of Work, you have the issue that one actor can potentially buy a lot of computing power and thus gain control over 51% of the network, known as the 51% attack. This puts them into the power to add new blocks and make decisions that don't factor on anyone else. Well, this is basically impossible if the network gets big enough, because it requires just too much computing power. What could happen is that many miners put themselves together to have more than 51% of the necessary computing power. Proof of Stake basically has the same issue in my opinion. You always could have one person, one bad actor that buys up 51% of all the coins and then basically gains control over the network. Of course, there are other mechanisms in place in most blockchains, for example, how long a person has been staked, but it's still an issue. I would say the issue exists for both types of blockchains, but is basically very, very unlikely, especially if the blockchain grows bigger and bigger and bigger. You just would need too many resources to gain a significant portion of it. Aside from that, the biggest holders are often in entirely different countries, which makes it even more unlikely that they follow one shared goal. Here it's also important to note that decentralization is on a continuum. which just makes sense because someone needs to create the blockchain first. So in the beginning it's always quite centralized. But for proof of stake especially, one company or individual needs to create the blockchain and distribute the coins, which makes it possible for them to hold many of these coins back for themselves. So I have to give the edge for decentralization to proof of work here. Now, next, let's look at energy consumption. Now, I probably don't need to say a lot about this here. Proof of stake clearly wins because it just needs one computer, often just a laptop, and not all of that computing power that proof of work needs. There was a lot of criticism and FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt around Bitcoin and the blockchain and also Ethereum and all the energy they need in the media. And maybe I'll make a dedicated energy consumption video about that in the future, where I try to take a really neutral look at the whole situation. But let me know if this is something that you would be interested in. Good, now let's look at transaction speed next. With proof of stake, a transaction can happen almost instantly, but of course this always depends on other factors, for example how the network is built or how many people are using the network currently. With proof of work you always have to solve the mathematical puzzle first, but this is intended. This is a built-in feature for additional safety. So as for the transaction speed, yes, proof of stake wins, but proof of work doesn't even play that game. It doesn't even intend to win here. So I give it a draw. There are other concepts aside from proof of work and proof of stake. And many blockchains also use a hybrid system. But overall, the most used concept for blockchains is proof of stake. This includes, for example, Cardano, Algorand, but also Ethereum, which recently switched from proof of work over to proof of stake. Blockchains that use proof of work are, for example, Dogecoin and, of course, the most well-known cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. To find out more about how Bitcoin works and how people without a copy of the blockchain actually interact with it, check out the video right over here that I'll surely have done somewhere in the future, or maybe already.